So, okie dokie. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that. And here we are. And we should be live on Facebook. Now, whether I haven't done it live on Facebook for some time, but yeah, we are
Yes, we are.
we are live. Can you see us live on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So Sim and I actually did this talk on Instagram the other night because we've had quite a lot of good feedback from our Instagram lives, and we did a really good one the other night, and it wouldn't upload on my phone for some reason because I haven't got Wi-Fi in here anymore. I have to plug everything in, and I won't go into why, but anyway, it didn't upload. So what we thought we would do is come and talk to you, lovely people, on YouTube and Facebook. So I'm going to Sim, would you just like to introduce yourself? Because we haven't been live on Facebook at all together like
No.
this, not for many years. So obviously I'm Shakti and I am on day 9 of a carnivore diet, and I just want to talk a little bit about that and what's been happening and why I'm doing it. And Sim, just introduce yourself very briefly. We're not going to be more than sort of 20-25 minutes talk, but it's going to be a significant little talk. You and I can't stop talking.
Yeah, we'll try and keep it to that. Yes, I'm Sim. Hi, everybody. I'm the body worker and I am very focused on metabolic health. So I focus specifically on insulin as a hormone and how it affects our health, and GLP-1, which is how that affects our appetite and our uh our appetite and cravings for food. So that's me in
Cool.
a nutshell.
In a nutshell. And you and I have had this very deep passion for many years. You've been a Pilates client of mine for many years, and we've become good friends because we're both really passionate about helping people to change their lifestyles and their lives. And the most important thing for me has never been about weight loss. For me, it's been about curing my inflammation in my body. The passion has been lifelong, obviously, since watching my first husband die from cancer after being misdiagnosed, my baby on a life support machine after being misdiagnosed. And I'm not talking about one doctor, I'm talking about a whole practice full of doctors. And realizing at a very young age, 25, that my trust in the medical profession, I trusted them. And in a series of moments and weeks and months, I was let down horrifically, quite frankly. And so my reaction to that was drink and drugs and trying to deal with the trauma and just living rock and roll because the world seemed so crazy. Like everything just seemed off. And over the years, I'd always had a passion. I remember, back in the sort of the 80s and even before that, even the 70s, I remember as a teenager, I really wanted to know how these American people who are into health, how they got these special potions and lotions and pills that were good for the health. I wanted it and it wasn't accessible, nor was social media, obviously. I just want to say I'm on day 9 of a carnivore diet, and I just want to explain, not that I need to explain, but I actually feel like I would like to give my voice to why I decided to do this carnivore diet. And the reason is that I went keto. I've always had a quite a big addiction to sugar, like most people. Never fizzy drinks. Luckily, at 14, my skin was so full of acne. And they said, if you stop eating sugar and don't drink fizzy drinks, your acne will go away. So I have never had a thing for fizzy drinks. However, I've always had a thing for cake, biscuits, croissants, um,
Bread.
bread, just all the things, they call it the typical American diet, don't they? The American diet. And I just used to be hungry a lot. Now, I know you're going to talk about this because I know that this product that we've got, the natural GLP, is really helping people who want a natural approach to fat loss. But what for me, what it was I just had this ability, like most people, to stuff my face and eat and eat and eat and never know why that when I'd eaten, I'd be hungry again half an hour later. I'd have a great big roast dinner, roast potatoes, the works. And then half an hour later, I'd be eating bars of chocolate and cake and then you'd get hungry and hungry. And it's only in the last 7 or 8 years that I learned about the keto diet and it's like, how can I eat bacon and eggs without bread? I mean, we've all started on something and thought, how can I ever do that? But over the years, I've practiced keto and I've gone on and off it and on and off it, but very slowly, like step by step, my diet has changed. My taste buds have changed. And I've made huge change in my diet over the last 5, 10 years. One of the reasons I used to go to Bali every winter, all throughout my 50s, was because in the winter, I wouldn't have to be at home in the cold eating crap. I could go away in my 50s. I was a single woman, my kids were growing up and I could be in the sun and I could eat salads and be healthy. I love salad. I love healthy food. So fast forward, um, I was re-diagnosed. I've had a chronic irritable bowel disease for autoimmune disease for the last 20 years. And 2 years ago, I no, sorry, I'll say that again. After 2 years of being diagnosed, so I was 43. It was just after my mother died from cancer, and I was 43. And my mum was just a year older than I am now. She was 65. Um, I decided that I didn't want to be on medication. It wasn't making much difference. I thought I want to change my diet and change my life. So I did. I changed my life. I started getting into green juices. My new partner at the time, after a second marriage, failed after 12 years. And I thought, I've got this new partner. He's really into fitness and he's into green juices. So we were drinking barley grass and wheatgrass. And then we ended up growing wheatgrass on the windowsill in the conservatory. And he was taking supplements and it was all exciting. And of course, as often happens when you're unwell or when you're, when you're stressed or if you've got a disease or something, literally, as I started taking these supplements and then booked in for a colon, what do they call it? The colon, the
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they clean your whole bowel out. So not an enema, but the whole colon. We both booked in for this thing. This is going back, 25 years. We booked in and I was just getting into doing all these amazing things and I started bleeding and I was diagnosed. So I decided at that point I'm going to do something radical, radical, radical. I stopped drinking so much because I was drinking a lot, stopped drinking, kind of grew up really after my mum died at 43. So I came off the medication after 2 years and I've managed. I've had one or two flare ups every year, which normally last about 3 or 4 months. I mean, but I don't get colitis, ulcerative colitis, as bad as other people. I don't think I'm lucky. I think to degrees I'm lucky, but I think most of it is because of my lifestyle and the fact that most of the time I'm eating pretty healthy. So 2 months ago, I go to the specialist and I had a colonoscopy last summer, first one in many, many years. And he called me in, and I thought, great, and he showed me my colon, what it was looking like last summer. And he said, oh, your colon was looking very angry once upon a time. You can see the scarring, and it's not very happy, and it's kind of mild to moderate, but we need to get you on medication. I said, well, how long? And he said, well, for life, for life. And I thought, God, I'm now 64, and they're now telling me again, 20 years later, you've got to go on medication for life. And I thought, bloody hell, I'm not going on medication for life. So I will let you talk in a minute. I will let you speak in 1 minute. I just want to get this all out because the thing is, people don't realize what anyone like me or like you have been through in order to make the decisions that we make. Okay. I've worked on detox retreats in Thailand. I've worked with people on serious detoxes with vegans, with people who are dying from cancer. They've all gone vegan for many, many, many years. And I've also got the friends who have gone from vegan to carnivore. So I decided 8 weeks ago that I was going to do something radical again because I didn't want to go on the medication. And I said to the specialist, I said, why in the cafe, if you're telling me I need to go on medication, which has a lot of side effects, why is the cafe full of cake everywhere I look, there is every colour cake you can imagine. You go into the pharmacist at the hospital, and it's full of shitty sweets. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I know a lot of people that follow me will also know it's unbelievable. It's just insane. When I asked him why there is so much sugar in the hospital, given that sugar is the worst thing you can do for inflammation, whether it's diabetes, cancer, colitis, fibromyalgia, whatever it is, sugar is the very worst thing you can feed it. His response was, and I know I've said this a few times in other lives I've done, but his response was, my patients are malnourished, so I'm happy for them to eat cake and I'm happy for them to eat anything they want because they're malnourished. And I had to say, pardon. I had to say, can you repeat that? And he said it again. And I've also got me talking to the nurse at the hospital on a little live on YouTube, actually having this conversation. So I have proof. So 9 days ago, I decided I'm in a flare up at the moment. It's not a bad flare up, but it's a flare up. I decided that I was going to give a go with the carnivore diet. Now, Sim, I would like you now to just share because you also, and you in a way inspired me because I didn't know anyone else apart from Tanya Diamond and Phil Escott, who are both friends from social media, have both gone very big time carnivore. But you are the only person that I actually know that's tried it. So would you just like to share your experience of food? Because you've also got quite a story around food as well.
Yeah, I do. Um, Thank you for sharing that, Shakti, and opening up. I think it's good for people to hear that even us therapists go through struggles,
Of
both
course.
with our addictions and with our health.
Mm,
So my sort of my autoimmune disease was fibromyalgia. I was diagnosed with that back in, I don't know, 2014 after many years of being told it was normal to feel in pain all the time and have headaches all the time because I was a young mum or a young mum with young children.
mm,
Hormones, blame the hormones. But it just never felt right. It affected my day-to-day living. It affected my ability to be a good mum for my two
mm,
very active boys. And it affected my business as a body worker because I used to physically work on people. And although when I worked on people, I always felt energetic and I had the energy to do it, afterwards, I was floored.
yeah,
Eventually, as I said, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I did get put on a pain management program via the NHS, which is phenomenal. And if anybody gets the opportunity to do it, I would seriously suggest that they do. But they didn't look at an aspect of life, which I think for me was the key turning point when I made the decision, when I found out about low carb, which was actually in South Africa where they call it banting. And I committed to a 3 month program there in South Africa online called the Real Meal Revolution. And anybody who follows me will follow that can follow that story because I talk about it all the time because I committed to that on the 4th of June 2015. And in fact, on my Instagram, I have a photo of just how I looked within that 3 month period, I think 3 or 4 month period of going low carb and completely committing. And it absolutely changed my life. It changed my life so much that I dedicated the rest of my life, or my life so far, to
mm,
talking about it and encouraging people to make the shift to what I really consider a real food dietary approach. I've said to you, and we said it on the last live that we did, but we didn't get recorded. But we need to really come away from all these names of things, of banting and this and keto and low carb, because actually, what really people need to realize is that they just need to eat real food. But actually, we also need to educate people on what real food is. And I
mm,
always come from a metabolic perspective, so I'm looking always at insulin and blood glucose response. But in two, oh, I can't even remember what year it was because my maths isn't that good, but 6 years ago, on my 40th birthday, I decided I would try carnivore. And I committed to doing a 28-day carnivore challenge. um, over my birthday period. Don't ask me why, but I did. Um, and it was another
In Las
life-changing moment.
Vegas as well.
No, I was drinking and I was over. I was in Las Vegas. It was when I came back from Las Vegas and I saw a photo of myself and I went, who is that person? I don't recognize them. I looked inflamed and knackered. I was mentally drained from being in a toxic relationship. And I thought, I don't know who that person is, but that person, I don't recognize them and I don't want to be that. And so I made a radical change, and one of those changes was to go carnivore for 28 days, and that was life changing. Um, on top of already knowing what it feels like to feel amazing from low carb, just eliminating so many things and just allowing the body to almost reset with a carnivore diet. And a carnivore diet, if you do it properly, is just meat, red meat, steak, eggs, and salt and butter, maybe.
Mm,
And that's what I did. And was it easy? Fuck no. It was the biggest mental challenge I've ever had to deal with when it's come to food, because we use food for so many other reasons other than to nourish us and fuel us.
mm,
And
mm.
that month showed me how many times I had to stop myself from going into the fridge, opening it and going, why are you doing that? You're not even hungry. So it was a real shift in me understanding my physical response, as in, am I hungry or am I just bored? Am I just doing this out of habit? Am I stressed? Am I tired? Am I emotional? I can tell you probably 99.9% of the time it was anything to do with anything other than being hungry. Because you're not hungry when you're on a carnivore diet, really.
No. Mm.
But I slept better, my skin looked better, my eyes were bright. Now I felt all of that on low carb, but this just did one massive thing for me, which was it eliminated all of my cravings for sugar. And you know what a sugar addict I am. I am absolutely. And when we say sugar, people need to understand that that is actually carbohydrates as well. So that
Hmm.
is baked goods. That is the croissants that you're talking about. That is, you know, crisps as well as sweet stuff. We're talking about refined, ultra
Crap.
processed foods, right? And it's addictive. It's a drug, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. And you can argue with me until the cows come home, but you will never change my mind on that.
Mm.
So I feel very, very passionately about it. But the carnivore was phenomenal. It was not sustainable for me because I do enjoy food and I enjoy cooking, and
Yeah.
it has its limitations. And again, people who are carnivore for decades will say otherwise. But I believe that people you have to meet people where they're at, and I'm
100%.
not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I have continued to do through that challenge is pretty much eat meat, red meat every day. So if I don't eat red meat, for example, I had chicken last night, I was absolutely starving this morning because chicken just does not give me any satiety. But when I eat red meat, absolutely fine. Everything feels calm.
What do you eat with your red meat now? Vegetables. Some
I
vegetables.
eat vegetables and salad. Sometimes I just eat the red meat. I might have a
Mm.
bit of horseradish with it.
Mm. Interesting. Cool. Well, that's interesting. So the main thing I remember you telling me was that all your pain went.
So all my pain went when I went low carb.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, so everything
Interesting.
everything balanced out when I went low carb. But the minute I go when I relapse and I go more than 2 or 3 days of going off the rails, everything comes back. My pain comes back, headaches come back. I wake up with joint pain. I wake up looking really tired and a little bit
Mm,
baggy.
mm, mm,
I
mm.
can see the inflammation very quickly on my face. So I guess the question one needs to ask themselves is why do you bother doing that? Why do you do that when you know what it's going to do to your body and your health? And the fact is, it's because it's an addiction. And I absolutely talk about this a lot, and we're going to talk about my challenge that I'd like to
Yeah.
open up for everybody. But
Yeah,
Yeah, the carnivore diet was phenomenal.
thank you. So for me, the ketogenic diet for me was the game changer. Like you, I haven't, people think I haven't had a weight issue, and I haven't had a weight issue. However, I have had a feeling bloated and stuffed and constipated issue. And I hid it very well for the 35 years. It probably didn't start probably to the last, well, obviously, by the time I got ulcerative colitis, I was 43, but all through I had a very flat tummy. I was lucky my body shape was quite a flat tummy. But when I first was diagnosed with colitis, I was quite bloated and I was teaching Pilates and I was kind of feeling stuffed. You know that feeling when I didn't look fat, but my insides, I thought it was normal to have tummy ache every time I ate from a child. I thought it was normal. And so keto changed my life because what it did was when I cut out the carbs and anything, eggs, cheese,
Yeah,
a bit of meat. The funny thing is, it's not funny. I'm not a big fan of meat. I don't eat a lot of meat. I don't eat a lot of steak. I eat chicken occasionally, but I eat eggs, cheese, green smoothies, salads, occasionally sweet potatoes. But when I'm doing keto, the main thing for me was keeping off the nasties. I'll have
yeah,
berries and green smoothies, like really healthy stuff. But I realized that all this healthy eating I'm doing, I was still getting flare ups. So when I saw the specialist and he told me to go on medication for life, I was really pissed off. And I'm pissed off anyway with the whole of Big Pharma to the degree that for many years after Steve died 38 years ago, my boys are 42 and 38 now. So we're talking a long time ago. And I've grieved and done all the things I needed to do. But for many years after that happened, I used to walk past that doctor's with a lipstick and scrape out the doctor's names. I mean, I went crazy, and so that kind of anger towards them, the big pharma, but also the suppression of the emotions. When you're suppressing your emotions, what do? We stuff our emotions down with food, which was one of the reasons I got for my whole healing journey was to look at the inner work. So I've used, fitness and inner work and meditation and yoga and all of the things that I'm interested in healing and lifestyle. But when the specialist said that to me, I thought to myself, I'm going to go to another level now because I'm not going to take medication, but I want to heal my gut. My flare up is manageable. However, I was watching people like, I've watched her for years, but Michaela, uh, Jordan Peterson's
Peterson. Yeah,
daughter, is the ultimate one, who had arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis from the age of 7 and cannot eat anything without flaring up apart from red meat. And I started listening to podcasts with thousands and thousands of comments of people saying of all ages, particularly I would say people in their 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, who were reversing lifelong conditions, autoimmune diseases from going carnivore. Now you can't ignore it. I know that you go on the social media and whatever it is you're looking for, you find hundreds and thousands of people who will say what you want them to say. But these were and I always, when there's a comment on YouTube, I will click on it to see if that person's a bot. I will see if they're a real person. You can see if they've got their own channel. And there were too many comments and too many high profile doctors and people. Then you've got the Eric Bergs and all of those who were talking about carnivore. And you said your pain had been helped and it was worth doing. So even though I don't like meat particularly, I thought, do you know what? I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to do this to see if it works. Now, the thing that shocked me more than anything was the comments I got because I thought I had a few weeks break from Facebook. I went back on, I said I'm doing a carnivore diet. Well, I tell you what, I had about 5 or 6 private messages from people absolutely hating on what I was doing. I understand vegans are, I understand vegans. I know vegans. I know many people have gone from vegan to carnivore or to keto. But I understand where they're coming from. However, like I said, I don't want to get political here, but like I said to somebody who's questioning it at the moment by me saying good for Tommy Robinson, right? Sorry to say this, but I have two friends whose daughters were gang raped by grooming gangs in Luton and one in Holland, right? Thank you, Tommy Robinson, for me, for highlighting what Keir Starmer is finally foolishly, 16 years after Tommy Robinson was screaming and shouting about it. Keir Starmer, I think, in the last couple of days, has finally agreed to look into it and open up a report on it and really investigate what was going on. So the thing is, what I'm trying to say here is, what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is that people will rant and rave about why you shouldn't do something. You've got to look at why people do what they do. Why do people do what they do? Because I have friends whose daughters have been through that horrific experience. That's why I say do what you're doing, Tori Robinson. It's nothing to do with whatever else people might think he is. So it's the same with carnivore. The slating I got for eating dead animals and this and that and the other. You're not spiritual. Who do you think you are? I actually messaged someone back and look, you're not very spiritual judging me. I've got my reasons for doing this. I want to heal. I didn't bother telling them why I was doing it. And then there were people on Facebook, and then somebody messaged me on Instagram and TikTok saying, I love what you're doing. Well, I didn't even say love what you're doing, but my husband eats meat, my children eat meat, but me, I'm vegetarian. Have you tried green barley? I take it all the time, and I just thought nobody realizes the dedication and commitment to do something that is so radical that, as you said earlier, Sim, it's an elimination diet. And I know from day one of doing this carnivore diet that for the first time in my life, when I eat the meat, the beef, my tummy doesn't hurt. I haven't got bloating. When I've got a flare up, I get bloating. I'm digesting it beautifully. I don't even know I've eaten. My tummy feels so good. If you haven't had that, or for my friends whose daughters were brutally gang raped, right? How dare anybody comment on anyone who hasn't been through something like that and had that experience? So all the judging in the world, if you haven't had the experience, likewise, if you hadn't had the experience of conscious relating and listening to somebody without offering advice that's not asked for. If I went out on social media and said, can anyone give me some advice, please? I'm thinking of going on carnivore. What do you think? What would you do? I haven't done that. I've shared that I'm trying the carnivore diet and I'm going one day at a time and I'm going to attempt 30 days. And the night before I went on the carnivore diet, I woke up in the night and I said to myself, what on earth do you think you're doing? You don't even like beef that much. You don't even like meat that much. The mental focus, as you said, is massive. The dedication, it's like this body. People say, oh, you look good for your age. You know, I've been committed to take care of my body. I would like to stay healthy. I shut my Pilates studio in lockdown to become an activist because I couldn't stand what was going on around the whole COVID thing. And I found myself when I turned 60, I'd be getting out of bed. I was teaching online, but I tend to be, you know me, I'm a teacher who watches. I don't do it. So I'm doing little bits to demonstrate, but I'm not exercising. I found myself getting old and I had to have a real conversation with myself and say, are you actually going to let yourself believe that this is what happens when you get to 60? You get all these pictures online. I was getting adverts coming up on my Facebook feed saying, are you over 60? Do you need some help? Playing that one. I'm not, they've lied about everything else. They've also lied about the whole aging process. If you eat healthy and you exercise and you think healthy and you're sovereign being and you don't follow the freaking herd, if you want to do or if you want to get what everyone else gets, do what everyone else does. and get what everyone else gets. I don't play into that world, you know.
Yeah, but that's
That's
because
why.
there are some people that aren't as easily manipulated as others, and but I want to get into that. But what has been clear is that the food industry have played a huge part in making us think that we are the problem, that we are weak, and that we have no willpower. I don't think people really sit back. I mean, people in our world do, but I think most people maybe don't sit back and think or realize that food companies spend many, many millions of pounds on research on how to make food addictive, right? How to create the food that, makes you go back for more. And you just have to listen. And if you look at advertising for any food, they don't actually talk about anything to do with the food. They talk about how the food makes you feel, right? McDonald's is I'm loving it. Once you pop, you can't stop, right? All these slogans are about how this food is going to make you feel. It's got nothing to do with how it's going to actually give you any nutrients, mostly because they're not going to give you any nutrients. And so when your consultant says things like, my clients are malnourished, well, fuck yes, they're malnourished because they're eating the food that is making them malnourished.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, obese people, which is an illness, it is a disease, are malnourished.
100%. 100%.
And
Absolutely.
we have been led to believe that we are the lazy people, that we are the ones that have got the problem. We're the ones that need the drugs. We're the ones that need the convenience food because we're the
Mm.
ones that have to work 24/7 to pay the bills and become stressed and not have time to cook real food. Life has changed so much. Um, and we are falling for it. We're falling for it.
Well, thank goodness for social media, Sim, because even today, right, this will make you laugh. Four of my friends were cooking a roast dinner, and they invited me for roast dinner. I said, well, I know I've got ribeye steak, I would rather have the roast dinner if I'm honest with you. And then I sat with them and had my ribeye steak and that. And then they said, right, well, we've got chocolate ice cream, chocolate ice cream. So Shakti, you can have some of this. I said, what? I said, don't be such a, swore at them. I said, I'm really jealous. They said, you can have it. I said, no, I can't. They said, it's dairy. You can have it. They were kind of clienty people because they didn't realize that, okay, I might be allowed dairy, but I can't have sugar.
Yeah, I think, and this is
Ice
actually
cream.
one of the reasons why I call myself a metabolic health educator, because
Mm,
most of what I do is have to re-educate people on all the lies and myths that we've been told for decades and decades, and
mm.
explain to people that the healthy fat's not the thing that, it's not the healthy fat that's going to make you fat, or it's not the healthy fat that's giving you the poor cholesterol problems, or that cholesterol isn't the issue, or there's just so many. I spend so much time. I remember when I worked in the NHS as a health coach on the diabetic prevention program, a lot of what I was saying was absolutely shocking to people. And I thought that maybe they'd want to know, they'd ask me questions about the food, what they can and can't eat, which they did a lot of. But a lot of the time it was things like, but I can't eat the meat because the meat's the thing that the doctors told me is going to be unhealthy for me because it's going to give me a heart attack because I've got high cholesterol and I need to be on the statin. Like, we're not even going to go down the statin route right now.
I'm going to go down the
Um,
statin cholesterol route today.
no,
I've
but
had two
but but
conversations with workmen today about this, and they want me to send them videos about cholesterol and statins, but let's not do that today.
and I think the thing is that, I can advise people, but I don't think people realize that it's such a huge picture. Like when you work with somebody, well, at least when I work with somebody, and I know when you work with people, you have to look at things holistically. I can't go and say to somebody, just stop eating the processed food or stop eating carbohydrates because they don't actually know what the carbohydrate is. And when they start eating all those foods that they realize are fabulously tasty, like all the dairy and all the good healthy fats and all the protein, but they haven't quite figured out that they actually do need to cut down on the carbohydrates, they're going to be a ticking time bomb. So I can't work with people giving them half the story. I have to give them the whole story so they are fully informed on the reason why they should be making better decisions. Oh, my dog's going crazy. The doorbell just rang.
Oh, so Sim, I want to talk to you about this sugar-free challenge that you're doing. But I'd just like to say that this is for me. Now I'm doing some weight training and knowing that I need more protein and knowing that now I'm over the age I am, women need more protein. I will go back to the ketogenic diet. I will never go vegetarian. Maybe in 5 or 10 years when I've increased my vibration and my frequency, one that matches to be able to live on fruit and vegetables, which I've done before. I personally have seen too many people revert from vegetarian and vegan who have lost their teeth and had dreadful problems and then decided to go carnivore or keto. But what I do want to say for me finally is that there isn't one solution to fix all. I think it's like when someone comes into me for an assessment, they go, I'm not sure if I want Pilates or yoga, or I don't care what you label it. I'm looking at you. What are we going to do with you? Because, we're not just physical bodies, we're emotional bodies, we're spiritual bodies. Have the quantum field. We've got our ancestral, we've got a lifetimes of energy and frequency that we're working with. And it's about trying things out, try it on. Does this work? Does this work? What works one year for you might not work
Yeah.
another year for you.
And that's exactly how I always say to people, this is the foundation. This is what we're trying to work towards, but it is an experiment at the end of the day.
It's an
A lot
experiment.
of it is an experiment. I don't
It's an
know,
ex- I've been
some
begging
people,
some of my go
I
on.
was just going to say that some people, I'm one of those people that can tolerate quite a lot of dairy. Um, there's a lot of people that think they can because they're addicted to it, because it's highly addictive. But they can't tolerate it. And if weight loss is one of your goals or reducing inflammation, then dairy is not the way forward for some people, even if they love
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So you just have
Um,
to, it's an experiment. That's how I look at
it's
it.
all an experiment. I've been saying to I've got some of my clients I've had for decades that I still teach online. And I've been saying for the last 5 or 6 years, let's up your weights. But, some people just want to keep using the same pink 2 kilogram weights, and that's fine. The thing is, Sim, as you know, once we get over 40 and then over 50, every decade, we are losing so much muscle mass. Okay. Now, if everyone's getting older, you're either going to die or get older. And either you want to stay fit and healthy so you can get into your 80s and your 90s and be running around and looking after your great grandchildren and doing the things. We're meant to be able to live to, I think it's 120. We should be living to 120 naturally. But it's the food chain that has destroyed us. Why in the last 50 years are people not getting well? People are sick. The pharmaceutical company is pumping out everything they possibly can to keep the whole population on medication. It's horrific how many people my age are on medication.
Well,
Horrific.
a lot of age. I think all ages we
All
are.
ages. Yeah.
But
But
yes, I think we're easy. I think the older you get, the easier the target. And I think also we've got to remember generationally, doctors, my parents' generation, really put doctors on a pedestal and truly believe that what they're being told is gospel. And that
it is.
still
I did.
amazes me. It still amazes me. If I'm going to go to the doctor for advice, I will just do the opposite of what they tell me
Exactly.
to do.
Exactly. I put my
But
faith in the doctors. Yeah, we live and we learn.
yeah, I don't. But let's talk about my sugar-free challenge
Let's
because we
talk
said
about the
this was going to be
sugar-free
20
challenge.
minutes and I think we've been 45
Okay. With that one.
because we have a lot to
So
say.
your 45-minute challenge, your sugar-free challenge, because Sim and I
Yes.
really are in the world of supporting people in getting better. For me, it's never been about weight loss. For me, it's about
No.
being healthy. the problem is most people, or many people who have either pre-diabetes or pre-disease, unfortunately, at the doctors, they don't pick up on it until you've already had it for a long time. And if you're overweight, you are on the road to getting something. It's that's how
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So
So the sugar-free challenge is going to be a live event that I'll be hosting in a private group, which anybody can contact me or you about, and I can send the link. It's just going to be 4 days of tips and tricks and ways in which you can really try and shift your mindset around this addiction. There are so many strategies that you can put in place. Of course, you're not going to be getting rid of a sugar addiction, decades of an addiction in 4 days, but this is really just about bringing your awareness to other ways of looking at it, not just from a food perspective, but from a mindset perspective, from a movement, sleep, how it affects your whole, it really affects your whole life. And of course, when I talk about sugar-free, I am talking about ultra-processed foods in general, because they are addictive. And that's really what I would love people to try and reduce significantly in their life. It will be, yeah, tips and tricks, what you can do, awareness. It's not about perfection, it's just about bringing your awareness back into your body. Start listening to your body because it is constantly giving you signals, right? We talk about this all the time, Shakti. It's not normal to wake up tired. It's not normal to wake up in pain. It's not normal to have a stomach ache after you eat. We have just talked ourselves into believing it's normal. It's not. There's a reason, there's a signal. And if we can start just listening to our body and trusting it again, and one of those ways is listening to our signals of hunger or addiction, then we will be on our way to healing ourselves. So, yeah, I'm going to start the challenge on Monday, the 23rd. I keep looking at my calendar because I can never remember because it's really
I know
creeping up.
the
It
days
will
fly
be
by now, don't
The
they?
days are flying by. My eldest is 19 today, so that's like another massive
Oh,
thing for me.
wow.
Yeah, my
I remember
can't
when you
believe
were
it.
pregnant, darling.
I know, it's madness. Yeah, so the sugar-free challenge is really about bringing awareness, giving you a safe space to join me and yeah, try and just find another way to kick this bastard addiction.
Mm, And to feel good in your body. There is nothing like being able to move and be free in your body, not
Oh,
have aches and pains, to feel healthy, to feel alive. Gives you confidence as well. When you feel like you're not carrying around all the extra weight, you have more confidence. You can wear better clothes, you feel good, it's not just physical, it's psychological, it's emotional,
there's a
So
big
if anybody
psychological element, big psychological, and that's what I think the biggest, like I can tell you how to stop cravings, but what I can't tell you is how to stop your self-sabotaging behavior. I can help you bring your awareness to it, but only you can do that with my help.
absolutely,
Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, so
And if
if
anybody
you're
wants, if
interested,
anybody wants the fitness, or the coaching or the heart circling to look at, I mean, we had an amazing heart circling session this week, looking at some of the inner child work and how people can have major realizations that are such awakenings, that suddenly everything shifts. And that's when people want to go on. When people come to Pilates for the first time, it happens every time. It's always at a time when actually suddenly they're ready
mm,
to step into a new version of themselves. And I think new
yeah,
versions is always about losing the weight, getting fit, clearing your mind from the programming and the way that you've been, your behaviors have been your whole life. So it's radical transformation, it's high frequency stuff, it's healing, it's expansion, it's quantum. Actually, look at the times we're in.
mm,
It's just like why would anyone choose to get older, whatever age they are, and to get sick and ill and overweight? I think everyone deep down wants to be healthy,
yeah, but
and
it's hard work, Shakti. We know that it's hard work and it takes effort and it's easier to
And
take a
takes
pill.
commitment. But you've got
It
to look
does
at your
take a
why, like with
commitment.
anything. You've got to look at your why. Why do you want this? And usually, and same for me, but usually people get sick and then they want it.
That's true. And that's why all the years of me doing prevention, trying to help prevent stuff, never made me any money, never helped anybody because nobody wants to do it until they're sick. I mean, you didn't do it till you were sick. I didn't do it till I was sick. So I don't know why I thought anybody else would want to do it before they got sick.
I think, you know what, Sim, just on a final note, most people like us that are coaches that help people to improve their life, most coaches like us have done it ourselves. We've been
Yeah.
there, we've got the t-shirt,
I think we don't want
and
people to suffer. We don't want people,
yeah, well,
that's why we want to stop the suffering before it happens. But
I know.
that's
We
I
just want to
think
help people.
we just want to help people because
Yeah,
actually life doesn't need to be shit and painful and miserable. There's so much. It's
no,
joy. If you can find your joy, I always say to people, if you can find the joy, then you won't reach for
exactly.
the other stuff that
Yeah,
you're swallowing to hide. So you need
yeah,
to
yeah,
find your
yeah.
joy. But listen, let's cut it here because
Got it here,
otherwise
because
it's a
otherwise we'll
very
talk all night.
long.
I've got
Yes,
the
we can
spiritualist church tonight. I've got to go and practice my mediumship tonight. So
go for it.
listen, if you've enjoyed this, please if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. Please like, please comment if you're on Facebook. I know these things on Facebook when they're live from YouTube don't get many views, but hopefully the YouTube people will enjoy this. Let me know in the comments what you got out of this, if anything. And
Yeah,
Sim,
and
thanks
let me
for
know if you want to join the group, the sugar
yeah,
free
oh yeah,
on Monday.
absolutely. If you want to join Sim's challenge, how many days is it,
It'll be
Sim?
4,
4 days starting on.
Monday the 23rd, so Monday coming
Have
on
you got a link
Facebook.
I could put? Have you got a
Yeah,
link that I could put in the comments on YouTube?
yeah.
Okay, so check the comments down below and I'll put a link. Bye everyone. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you soon.